Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Wallace. How are you? This is just a quick video to help you with the Haitian Revolution project. After talking to some of the groups yesterday, I got a better sense of some of the challenges that you're having and some of the questions that you had. Keep asking those questions because it really helps me direct you maybe in a little bit of a new source or something like that, or help you talk through something and use each other, of course, as well. Even though it's going to be really natural in this kind of project that you're going to divvy up some of the work, so everybody's going to work, individually on a bunch of things. When you come together, don't be afraid to collaborate and to use each other to focus on some of the evaluation that's inherent in this project, which is, the question about how revolutionary the Haitian Revolution was. And there's a couple of different layers to that question. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this time in this video to highlight a few sources for you, things that you might want to consider as you look at this question. The first part of the question, and I know there's like a gabillion sources, so this is a little bit off-putting when you look at this, but remember, a lot of these sources are really designed to help you assemble some things for the project, and because there's a lot of you, you can divvy up some of these sources, and they all kind of vary. So one of the sources that you might want to look at quickly as a reminder source, the What is a Revolution source by Patrick Van Inwagen. And I'll give you a little like 2-second overview of this source, but his introduction to a book called Understanding Revolution is really all about, what is and isn't a revolution. If you remember from the beginning of the year, he kind of classifies revolutions as different than revolts or rebellions, which he argues are attempts at revolution but aren't necessarily successful. He also suggests that coups and perhaps reforms are really different from revolutions. And he also classifies revolutions as being either political or social, a social revolution really changing the entire social system in society, whereas political revolution might change the government system completely. But overall, and it's in the assignment as well, the way that he defines a revolution, he describes it as having particular categories, and he suggests it is as something that is forcible, irregular, so it's, strange and not within like the constitutional framework, for example. Popularly supported change in the governing regime. That's what he suggests a revolution is: forcible, irregular, popularly supported change in the government regime. And then he also talks about some very specific elements of it. So you might kind of use that and some of your other ideas about what a revolution is to really consider, based on what you know about the Haitian Revolution, is it something that kind of qualifies as a revolution? And then the second part of the question that's kind of inherent, in the is it revolutionary, is, how much the Haitian Revolution is successful. And you can look at that in terms of Van Egwen's definition, or you can also just kind of ask the question based on the goals that people put forth, whether it was free people of color or enslaved persons. How much were some of these goals met, and maybe in the short run and in the long run? So you can consider the definition of Patrick Van Egwen. You can also think in a broader sense, just from your own perspective, how much does this revolution seem to be successful? Okay, and that kind of gets you to the answer to the question of, whether or not this was revolutionary. A couple of sources that you'll notice: first of all, the Choices site. So I'm just going to go to the Choices site, note a few things that are there. The student version. So I can look at the student, copy. You can see it on the screen. You'll note that there's a few sections that will be particularly helpful. One is the revolution in Saint-Domingue. So this is a section that has some background information about the French Revolution, the revolt in the north of Saint-Domingue, the role of Europe, and then also the Civil War. And this is the Civil War between Toussaint Louverture and also a individual who is like more representative of free people of color. This Civil War ultimately lends itself to Toussaint Louverture gaining much more ground. However, there's still a fight for independence after that. And so you can see the next part that's probably most useful is the section on Haitian independence. This particular section really describes a lot of the content about the War for Independence, what this was all about, the taking of Toussaint Louverture to Europe, his death, and then what happens with Dessalines and some of the additional leaders, and what happens to Haiti, now the country of Haiti, after the revolution. There's also a section on some of the legacies. And so one of the things to keep in mind with the Haitian Revolution is, on one hand, it is incredibly significant as a enslaved person's revolt. We're seeing really a revolution from the people who are, most vulnerable in the society. This is not a revolution of elites. This is something a little different. At the same time, there are some consequences, both from the Haitian Revolution and also from the overarching consequences of like colonialism and French colonialism. And so an independent Haiti also finds itself challenged by other countries, for example, paying reparations to France. And so some of that can also be assessed as part of this, revolution, right? And how much of those outcomes are attached to the revolution, or perhaps they're not. So there's a lot of like legacy questions when it comes to the success and the way in which goals may have been reached or not reached. And that's some good places for some of your evaluation. I think the choices packet is kind of like good bang for your buck. It's also fairly readable. The other thing that's in the choices packet, which I think is useful for you, is there is some posting, and I'll go back to the space on Schoology. You can see these two handouts. One says causes, excerpts, and the other says effects. These are from the choices packet, okay? So that's like where they're from. So in terms of citing, that's where they're from. If you look at the causes, right? So we can go to the causes one. You'll see some excerpts from particular documents. Most of these are from historians. So David Gegas, for example, is a well-known historian of the Haitian Revolution, and he has his particular, quote. And in this quote, there is this, reference that the French Revolution of 1789 precipitated the colony's destruction. If Saint-Domingue was a dormant volcano, as contemporaries like to say, it needed only the shock waves of the political earthquake in Paris to provoke its eruption. So if you're looking to understand maybe the significance of the Enlightenment, or the significance really of the French Revolution, and maybe the outgrowth of the Declaration of Rights of Man, and what type of influence that had on Saint-Domingue, this is a quote that you might grab, right? And in your work, you're really citing and discussing David Patrick Gegas, but you're also noting that this is from the choices packet. And there's other pieces of information here too that all relate to the causes. Some of this might be some data, okay? So some things that are data oriented. The data might give you some ideas about more of like the volcano thing, what was happening in Saint-Domingue outside of the French Revolution, what changes might have created tensions. And I think I noted for some of the groups the other day that the shrinking of these maroon colonies is one aspect to look at. Another is just the actual increase of the enslaved population, something that we get from Philip Curtin in a book called The Atlantic Slave Trade, a census. And so that's another thing that you could use. But these are all excerpts from people who have commented or written about the causes. We see something similar if we look at the effects, okay, so if we go to the effects, this becomes another thing that you can use, the effects of the Haitian Revolution. These are a variety of effects, including effects outside of the group of people in Haiti. This is also effects on the United States, okay, so how there might be, maybe discomfort in the case of Charles Pinckney, who writes a letter to George Washington, worried about the slave revolt because this might be quote unquote unpleasant to us who live in countries where slaves abound. So what does that mean for other enslaved societies? And we also can see historians here in terms of some of the effects on the United States. Some of these effects might be on Latin American societies. I think looking at this, most of this seems to be, effects on the United States in particular, and maybe, things on the like United States effects on slavery. Okay, so that's what it looks like here. Maybe the enslaved people who were inspired by the Haitian Revolution. Maybe there is, concern of how to address, the Haitian Revolution and the slave revolt not coming to the United States. So that might be some things to look at. Okay. The other thing that I think you can look at in terms of effects, reparations. This is a New York Times article, so written in a much more modern time period, but really kind of reviewing some of the effects of the aftermath. The Choices packet also has that. And there's a lot of information about the Haitian Revolution being one of the forgotten revolutions, so one that doesn't get a lot of attention. And so there's quite a few pieces of information about that. That's also part of its legacy that you could look at. So if you're looking for, sources that help you understand the happening of the Haitian Revolution, I'm going to recommend the Choices packet and also this first source that says Haitian Revolution. If you open it up, it's a source by an historian by the name of Richard Graham. And it really comes from a chapter that's really about independence in Latin America. So it includes Haiti and it also includes other enslaved societies. But in any case, this has some good information about the chronology of the events. And this is something that you can completely look at. It tells you about what was happening before 1789. It also tells you about what was happening in 1791. And it also tells you a little bit about, as you get into some of the, changes that happen because of the French Revolution. It tells you what happens to Napoleon and his plans and how his role of trying to re-enslave people and him sending Emmanuel Leclerc, having him establish and reestablish French authority, how the social order is going to be restored back to what it was before, and ultimately how that gets challenged by Haitians themselves, first by Toussaint Louverture, who then gets captured by the French. But we also see Dessalines and Henry Christophe become very much into the independence movement. By 1804, Dessalines, who is somebody who worked alongside Toussaint Louverture, will proclaim the independence of Haiti. And some of this becomes important because the actual changes to the Constitution and to the rules of how Haiti will rule. One of the things that Dessalines does is declare himself an emperor. He was assassinated, and ultimately there's a lot of division and a lot of devastation from war. There also is the next leader, who will be Christophe, who also sets up a system where political reign will be hereditary. So the idea that, say, for example, comes out of the American Revolution, which becomes like a checks and balances system, like Montesquieu's ideas doesn't necessarily come to be as part of the constitution of the Haitian government after the Haitian Revolution. Okay, and so some of that is something to note. The other aspect to look at is the way in which land gets used and the economy and forced labor. So that's something else to look at within Haiti in terms of effects.